There is an interesting thing. We tend to forget today that for a long time, the way the watches were assessed in the world was by the accuracy, and especially as a tool, as an instrument. That the success of a brand was not defined by the number of pieces that was sold, and by the fact that those brands, some brands were winning a lot of contests that were a great way to illustrate their accuracy. And we're one of those few brands, and that's fantastic. But it's interesting to see that the transition, and I was talking about the brand humility before, and it's very strong because I think in our mindset, we still, as a brand, inspired by a philosophy which is we're not trying to seduce at all costs, but we're convinced we want to make some tools that are extremely reliable. And we're doing things also because it's nice, not only because it sells. We can afford to have that twist or to say it in a different way and to have fun. And also I think that's what the consumer wants to hear today. You should expect to see a lot more of that coming from Ulysse Nardin in the next 2 years. Consumer, all you, me, we all want to be surprised. At the same time, we also want to buy a product where we know that behind it there is a story, there is a clear why. I see my role and the role of the managing team to be able to take a brand and make some changes. Maybe the changes are less than 10% of the overall picture because we carry more than 170 years of history. Make some changes and also be daring, bring that story consistently and take risk. At a time when most of the other watch brands were looking backward into their histories, and most of them, their history were not as rich as Ulysse Nardin one, but they were looking back and doing limited editions or re-editing product they've been done in the past, etc. Ulysse Nardin has done very little of that, to the point where our history is not always well known. I mean, the military history of Ulysse Nardin is only known by very few connoisseurs when it's so rich. One of the things we've done as a team is we hired an historian to start digging in a brand archives and to understand what was behind. I mean, there are a lot of things we know, but there are so many unknowns, and the unknowns are so rich. I mean, every time we dig, we find more gold, and the goal is discovering that the brand has been obviously a leader in deck chronometer for almost 3 or 4 decades, almost the sole supplier of the US Navy for 30 or 40 years or so. The important thing is today, and why being very consistent in our product offer in terms of visual codes and DNA, is also making sure that we still bring some novelties and innovation, and especially in terms of movement, because that's where our consumers are expecting us. When you look back and then you understand, you see all that very long history at a time when it was critically useful to develop trade, to discover and conquer. I think it's a very strong message. I think for all individuals today to know that when you're buying a Ulysse Nardin watch, you also belong to that long and strong legacy.